Tuesday, the 25th of February, 6 p.m. is the night that Chelsea take on Southampton at Stamford Bridge. But more importantly, it is the night for the planned protest against Blue Coat. Trust the protest is something that we have been hearing very, very prominently, especially over the last few weeks. Now, it's funny because there was a time not too long ago, I believe, funnily enough, ironically enough, at Southampton away, when I remember the away fans, you could hear them through the TV singing "We've got our Chelsea back" when we were leading by 5-1 or something like that. How things can change. The reverse fixture, there is a protest planned against the board. And again, this isn't me saying that all of a sudden these things have happened and they weren't there then. Even when we were on a winning run of form, when things were looking good, they were looking like they were coming together at the start of the season, there were obviously underlying issues. However, in today's video, myself and the big dog are going to speak about the protest. We're going to speak about how protests have panned out, I should say, for other clubs and whatnot, and give our thoughts on whether we're on board with them, whether we're neutral with them and whatnot. But I want to start this off by saying, if you are in favour of the protest and whatnot, then I would urge you to go 6 p.m. outside Bovril Gate, Stamford Bridge on Tuesday the 25th. Josh, what are your general thoughts on the protest? But firstly, I'll actually ask you, I'm just going to ask you the hard question straight away. Are you in favour of this protest?
I think that fans have a democratic right with the way that to determine the way that they think their football club should be run.
Yeah.
And so the fact that a protest happens is absolutely fine. And I think I can understand the thought process of so many fans up and down the country that are sick and tired of the way that the club has been run, and they are not prioritising the here and now and are only prioritising the future. And arguably, are they even prioritising the future in an effective way? So I can understand completely why they do it. And actually, and spoiler alert, while I personally probably won't be there, that's not through any sort of, I suppose, malice against the sort of the message of the protest. It's more so, I suppose, I feel like we need a bit more time to discern really what's going on here, than going out there and saying these guys need to leave immediately.
How much more time? Because I came under a fair bit of stick. That I was actually like, I'm always completely transparent with you lot on the channel. I was texting you when I was voice noting you, and I was like, mate, I'm really fucking upset. Like, people, I did a live stream and I spoke about the protest, right? And bearing in mind, how long before that live stream had it been sort of arranged that there was going to be a protest? Probably 24, 48 hours?
Yeah, not long.
It wasn't long
kind
at all.
of that range, yeah.
So very hard in that time. Even if I had sat and thought about it for 24, 48 hours, and I've been thinking about it for months, obviously. There's been loads going on behind the scenes and whatnot. But even if I had sat and thought about it for that amount of time, right, it would still be very hard to come to a conclusion on things, because I honestly feel like, mate, like, protesting against an ownership, saying you want the ownership out, is like, you know, although it's not, because they've only been in charge like a couple of years and whatnot, it's like ending a long-term relationship, right? It's not something you want to go into lightly. And actually, what do you do before you end a long-term relationship?
You ghost them and never talk to them again?
Yeah. No, that's just when I shag them. No. Usually try and work on things. Usually try and fix things. Usually try and make things more to your liking, yeah? Which is what I want. 100%. So I want to be very, very clear with this message, because clearly there were some people that didn't get it. I'd some horrible inbox messages, like, if you're one of the people that know some of the things that I got sent privately on Instagram, weirdos, very strange people, What I'm not on about people saying, oh, I'm unsubscribing from your channel, or oh, you're not a Chelsea fan, stuff like that, right? Which, you know, let's be honest, mate. Let's add up the amount of minutes I've spent inside of Stamford Bridge compared to yourself, and we'll see who the Chelsea fan is. But like, I got some weird shit on Instagram, right? So those people, that's very strange. In the video, in the live stream, I've left it up on my channel, by the way, so people go check the receipts. In the live stream, I said this, right? I said, I'm not going to be at the protest, right? But I'm very interested to see how it goes. Firstly, I probably should have specified why I'm not going to be at the protest.
Because you're not going to be at the game.
Because I'm not going to be at the game.
Because you're going to be streaming it.
I'm not going to be.
Streaming the game.
I may get home in time to stream the game, possibly, but I only have about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I'm in camp right now for a fight.
Fair enough.
I'm in camp for a fight. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my sparring days. I spar at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Obviously, I've moved this week's sparring forward a little bit to 6:30 p.m. But you've got to remember, people that I spar with, a lot of them don't have the luxury of being able to do what they plan with
or
their
they
days.
travel or whatever.
A lot of them are going to work and stuff like that. So I'm having to work around sparring partners who do 9 till 5 jobs and sometimes later and whatnot. So I've got sparring that evening anyway, and this is the biggest fight of my life coming up. I'm coming off a loss, I can't go underprepared to this fight. So until this fight's done, I won't actually probably be attending any matches, by the way. Doesn't mean for the worst. The fights will be announced soon. It's not that far away. But that's one of the reasons why I wasn't going to be at the game anyway, and therefore wouldn't have been at the protest anyway. But I did state on this stream that if fans are feeling the urge to protest, then I urge them to go and make their voices be heard
100%.
and be part of it. I also said on the stream that if this season finishes and I still feel the way that I'm feeling at the minute, which is very, very negative, about the board, the directors, and the way that the club is being run, then I too will be part of protests. But I said, my exact words were, I said, I'm leaning over the cliff, leaning very far over the cliff. A strong gust of wind could put me off, but I haven't yet fallen. And I give you my reason for why. At the start of this season, do you remember what I said my ambitions were?
Was it Champions League and the Europa League and a domestic cup?
Yeah, we're not in the Europa, we're in the conference.
Sorry, conference.
But we just call it the Europa.
It's European trophy.
European trophy, isn't it?
It's all the same thing.
And
it's basically a knockoff Champions League.
Yeah, it's one more European trophy than Arsenal have won, but that's not relevant. What I was going to say was, I still think that there is a... Do I want to use the word strong? I still think there's a good chance that we finish in Champions League spots and with that Conference League title to our name. Now, if we do that, does that change my mind? Does that make me think all of a sudden, no, the ownership's great? No. But what it then does is it allows me to go, okay, let me see what happens in this transfer window, right? Because if... Sometimes, right, what you got to remember is, mate, should I use this? Yeah. It's a bit like losing your virginity, right?
Oh.
Once you start, you can't stop.
You do keep talking about it.
You go 15 years without losing it, mate. Once you start, bomb, every weekend you're doing it, right?
Some older than others, I would say.
There you go. And winning trophies is a little bit like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This ownership have never experienced winning a trophy before.
Once they do, they're going to get addicted to that feeling.
Once they do, they might get a buzz for it, and they might get an addiction for it, and they might understand that, look, 2-3 managers in a row now, behind closed doors, we all know, have said the same thing to you. Yeah? Want to keep hold of some of the players that you don't want to sell, and we want some experienced players in there, right? And if we meet my requirements that I required prior to the start of the season, which is finishing inside the top 4 and winning that Conference League. If we do that, then I want to look at what they do in the transfer window. Even the transfer window, right? We already know that Esteval's coming in, Kendrick Pires maybe. If in that transfer window, it's just £15 million signing, £15 million signing, load of kids that are never going to play for us, loaned out to Strasbourg. They don't address the goalkeeper situation. They don't bring in a number 9, And not only they don't bring them in, I'm on about experienced. I'm on about a couple of 25-year-olds in there, 26-year-olds, whatever. If in that transfer window, by the end of it, we haven't done that, and if we keep doing this whole thing of, we are very interested in this let's say, for example, Matthias Tell deal, but we want to resolve the Nkunku future first. No. Like, mate, you can do two things at once. You can multitask. I'm sure a club with the amount of employees that Chelsea has can be able to do that, right? If come that point, I'm still feeling the same, then, mate, I will fully be a part of the protests. And I tell you what, even before that point comes, Josh, if our form continues to fall off a cliff, I might go even quicker. So I just want to get that out there. Like, I don't understand. I honestly don't understand. I do understand it. I understand why people got upset with me for saying that I won't be at that first protest.
Yeah.
I do understand it.
Yeah.
And do you know why they did it?
Come.
Because they're upset.
Yeah.
Because they're upset.
Everyone's
and
upset.
They're venting it at me.
And also, to play devil's advocate in terms of, like, we're discussing the summer transfer window. And look, I'm the same as you, mate, so I'll get exactly the same criticism, and rightly so. They would say that they have, the sporting director said that it was a 4-window plan and said, judge us based on those 4 windows. We're at the end of that 4-window plan, and we had January as well, so it's 5 windows. And still, our squad looks in a terrible state.
We're weaker than when they took over.
By a mile. And look, they needed to get rid of a lot of players anyway.
Yep.
And the squad building is always a difficult thing to do. But I would say that the way that they have conducted it and the building they have done has completely ignored the fact that, as you say, we need players right now that can come in, compete, and be at the level of a Thiago Silva.
Of course.
Like, fuck me. If we were in the Champions League now, we look completely different from so many other sides. There are teams in not top 5 leagues that have players that are more experienced and more developed than this Chelsea squad.
Oh, mate, even when you look at last season, right, our backup striker last season was Brower, right?
Yeah.
Is Q better than Brower? Yeah.
Probably.
You'd probably say he is because of the injuries and whatnot. Is Neto a better option than Mudryk? I would say so. You might disagree.
I would like to have both in the same team, but yeah.
Yeah. Is Sancho a better option than Sterling? Again, I would say yeah. Some might disagree. But what I'm saying is, you see when I'm reading out these players, Hugh, Brower, Neto, Mudryk, Sancho, Sterling, they're kind of... They could be, as much as I love the players that we currently got, they could kind of be seen as sideward steps, yeah?
Yep.
It's not like I'm going, right, we had Brower as our backup striker, and let's say, for example, we still had Jackson, but we brought, even if we didn't bring in a statement signing number 9, we brought Tammy back as our backup striker. Yeah, which I think he would have done. Like, he's on loan right now. That's why AC Milan. I get he's playing at a higher level in terms of European competition and whatnot. But you know, what I'm saying is, I wouldn't have been annoyed with that. But yeah, I think that the recruitment strategy has been very bad, and I think that's what with the dip in form, the quotes that are coming out from Egbali, I hate those quotes. Yeah,
can you reiterate them just for people that haven't seen them?
So some of the quotes that were coming out from Egbali was basically saying that, if you look at Brighton, they
consistently punch above their weight, and they finish above where they should do at a cheaper price, and they're a good club too.
And nearly win as much as the top 5 or 6 teams. Yeah. Now, firstly, why are you saying top 5 or 6 teams? Because for Chelsea Football Club, 5th and 6th is not acceptable. Finishing inside the top 4 is exactly what we should be doing. Secondly, when you're talking about Brighton, we don't want to be Brighton. And also, when you say nearly, I don't know if you're on about nearly win as much as in like nearly win as many games and whatever. But as I said, and people that have seen this guy off my social media, nearly for me is losing. Nearly for me is Moscow 2007. Yeah. That's nearly. That's nearly. Losing the penalty shootout. But just quickly, have you heard about our channel sponsor, StakeMate? StakeMate is as if Bet365 and Snapchat came together and had a baby. And inside that baby, we have our exclusive Joey Night chat, which many of you guys are already in, and some of you are already winning, including our boy Louis, who won over 236 quid this weekend. So if you're not already in there and you want to be a part of it, where you can talk with the big dog and myself, then hit the link in the description and sign up to StakeMate. Now, I'm guessing that you've heard of Sports Bible. Well, the guys over there have also said that StakeMate is the future of betting. So even more reason to get involved. And when you do sign up to StakeMate for the first time, you will receive £20 in free bets when you bet just your first £10. And they're offering even more bonuses as you play. So hit the link in the description to download StakeMate today, and remember to join my group by using the invite code, which is JOEYK, all capitals. Remember though, in order to sign up, you do need to be over 18 years old. You do need to be living inside the UK, and most importantly, we all need to remember to gamble responsibly. Thank you very much to StakeMate for sponsoring another video. Let's get back into it. Nearly, for me, is when we played. Who did we play on that final day? I think it was, I can't remember. It could have been Bolton. Ironically, because it was Bolton we won it against, but that wasn't on the final day. But yeah, I think it might have been Bolton that we played on the final day. Nearly as that, when Man United come the full-time whistle, they've beat us on goal difference or by a point, whatever it was, right? That's nearly win the league. That's not what Brighton are doing. So those quotes enraged me. However, it is worth noting, those quotes are from...
Go on.
2022. They're from about 3 years.
They're taken out of context. Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're taken out of time context, but they're taken out of time context. Yeah. They are taken out of time context.
The ultimate question that I've got back to anyone that is going to the protests, more so to ask the question is, who are we protesting against? Like, are we protesting against Bowley together? Are we protesting against the sporting directors? Are we protesting against the manager, the squad? Ultimately, the way that I see it, and the people that are attending the protest can tell us, I see it is against Bowley and Eghbali. Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, Eghbali's the worst one.
See, it's so interesting because I think the reason why I asked that question is I think all of them have their pros and cons. I think they all have their flaws and benefits. So Eghbali is the one that's looking at the data and is trying to bring in young players and improve them. I would say that an Eghbali signing is someone like in a good day. Obviously, there's so many bad examples. Yeah. But on a good day, a Santos. Yeah. You know, on a good day, a Esteval, a Kendry Paez, right? Malo Gusto. Right. We could go on and on. Young players that are going to be world class. Yeah. And we've identified them and brought them in. On a bad day, that looks like Cesare Casadei, blah, blah, blah. We could go on, right? Yeah. There are players that have come in and flopped, never plays, and it's just an amalgamation of talent. Yeah. But then you look at the Bowley side and you go, there are inherent flaws with his model as well. He brought in Koulibaly, who on paper should have been really good, but wasn't. He brought in Sterling, Aubameyang, right? And again, I think the difficulty that I have in terms of directing my anger at one person is I feel that strategy I respect and would have got short-term benefits. The Eghbali strategy has benefits long-term, but doesn't have the short-term benefits. So would you I'm struggling to figure out who to apportion blame to.
Can I tell you, you've really, really summarised how I feel there in just saying that. And this is why this is why I got upset when I was getting the criticism, is because I was saying I'm for the protest. Yeah. I'm for it. I'm for it because I believe that our club has been run poorly. Yeah. I believe that every single indication has pointed in the direction of not prioritising immediate success on the pitch right now. Yeah, I think that January shows that. I think that we could have spent money. I think there was deals that could have been done. I think that we look at so many deals. I'm not saying these guys are well beaters or whatever, but Mateus Tell, Samu earlier on in the past transfer window. There's been a lot. Osman, how on earth have we failed to sign Osman, but then he's gone to Galatasaray on loan? That doesn't make sense for me. There are so many of these deals that we haven't been able to go out and get done, right? And they're really frustrating ones for me. So I think that specifically our transfer business, but also, a lot of the quotes that are now resurfacing come the bad run of form, I can understand why the protest's happening. I'm for it happening. I'm not against it. I'm for it happening. I just said that when I don't ever want to be a channel that one day makes a thumbnail, right, that says, Clear Lake transformed Chelsea Football Club. And within 3 weeks later, make a thumbnail, Clear Lake out.
Yeah.
Enzo Maresca's magic. Enzo needs to go within 3 weeks, yeah? And I'm sure you could think of 1 or 2 channels that have done stuff like that, right? So what I'm saying is, I don't want to be that, yeah? And when I feel strongly about something, that's when I want to plant my flag in the ground, yeah?
I think you've done that in the past as well. I think you've done it with managers.
Yep.
I think you've done it with players.
What, in terms of being wrong about them?
No. As in terms of when you've had enough, I think you've said it.
Yeah.
Like, I think when you, like the Potter thing, I think you'd had enough and you'd said it's time to go.
Yep.
And my ultimate point now is, I don't think you've got to that point yet with the board.
I'm very close, by the way.
I know you are.
I'm very, very close. Very close.
you are.
And this is why I'm saying I'm in favour of the protests. Now, let's be honest, yeah. By the way, like, when I'm saying I'm not going to be at the protest, that's not like I'm not going to be there. It's more like, I'm not going to be there because I'm not there. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was there, I'd probably be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing of that. But what a lot of people feel is that if you've got 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, you've got an
obligation.
Obligation is the word I'm looking for. You've got an obligation to push it, and that's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm making people aware of it. That's why I'm saying, go to it. I urge you to go to it if you feel like going to it, and that's why I'm very, very interested to see how it unfolds. My reluctancy myself in saying you should go to it is because, 1, I don't like to tell people in life what they should do, yeah? And 2, in terms of me, and I bring it back to the relationship thing, ending a relationship, me, right? Let's say, for example, right? You're in a relationship. I don't care about things like Valentine's Day, but some people do, right? You're in a relationship. It is middle of January. You're thinking about ending it because you're thinking, she don't make much effort, whatever. And you go, do you know what? It's a big move. Let me see what she's got planned for me for Valentine's Day. And I know that sounds really silly.
People do that. People live their life like that. But a lot of people do that for Christmas.
Yeah. I know that sounds really silly, but that's just the kind of mind frame I'm in at the moment. So in my head, again, to clarify, I'm going, if we don't finish in the top 4 this season, get Champions League football this season, don't win the Conference League, whatever, then yeah. I want these lot gone because I think they fucked it in the January transfer window and in windows gone by. However, if they do, then I'm then willing to see how the next transfer window unfolds and see whether prioritising success on the field is something that comes in. And I think, in the meantime, I think that you guys that are going to the protest are doing the right thing, because I think that what that might do is it might translate from the internet to real life, and then the owners might think, right, fucking hell, we've got Strasbourg fans who are already protesting. That's the other thing we've got to speak about. Strasbourg fans are already protesting against Blue Coat. They don't want them there, yeah? And then we've got Chelsea fans, and then they might start to think a little bit more, and I think that might change things. So I think that the protests are good. I want that on record right now, right? Now, just quickly, before we cap it off, can we speak about some other protests? Because are all protests, in your opinion, successful?
I don't think many protests are successful, to be honest with you.
Because I've noted down a few here just for reference, right? Arsenal fans in 2021, right, they protested against the Super League, as all of the teams did, right? And those protests were successful in the end. Very, very different scenario. Very, very different against protesting against your club doing something rather than your club being owned by someone. Very, very different, right? But obviously, at the same time, they were protesting against the Cronkies and they wanted them out. Do you remember that?
Yeah, totally.
They wanted them out. They wanted them to depart with the ownership. Since then, they have had their back-to-back best seasons in years and years and years, haven't they?
Not one much, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, how many trophies in total?
Is it one?
FA
Cup.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Go on.
What, you're on about Arteta's FA Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you finished like 8th in the league with them that year.
Yeah, but they got a trophy.
No, fuck that. I'm not on about that. I'm on about since 2021. How many trophies?
None.
Fuck all.
Yeah.
They won nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah? But they're not protesting against the Cronkies anymore. I kind of feel like they're, happy.
I would say they're big fans.
Medium rare on how.
I would say they're very happy.
There you go, very happy, yeah. And the signings of the likes of Declan Rice and other high-profile signings that have come in, I think, have definitely solidified a bit more trust in the ownership. And that's an example where I can go, okay, there were literally protests against this ownership.
It didn't work.
But it didn't work, and things have grown. There's been a development of a relationship, and ultimately, did that come down to the Arsenal fans bending and going, oh, well, we'll just take it? I don't think it did. I think that the protests were successful in a way to get them, Josh Kroenke came to the forefront a little bit more and started running the show a little bit more. Edu came in and whatnot, and I think that it encouraged change, which is why I think that the protests are a good thing. But again, the Kroenkes didn't sell the club because of it, and that's one of the things they were protesting against. Obviously, Man United fans protested against the Glazers for years.
Yeah.
Green and gold until the club is sold. Has it been sold? No, it hasn't been sold.
Well, technically, yes.
No, it hasn't.
Technically, it has. Obviously, Ineos only have 25% currently, but run the sporting operation.
They do, yeah. But what if the Glazers said right now we want it back?
They would have to buy him out, but yeah, they could do that.
They could do that.
I mean, they don't have very, very much money. They have to do a leverage buyout.
Yeah, but either way,
pricks.
Either way, what I'm trying.
The fact is, by the way, they wouldn't have even got in the current Premier League rules.
No,
because they wouldn't.
And the point I'm trying to make is the Man United protests were unsuccessful. Okay, now Liverpool fans have protested against Fenway Sports Group many of times, as far back as 2016. Yet, obviously, recently. Very, very successful period. And there was a successful protest recently, actually, in the increase in season ticket prices, right? Which they were planning on increasing them. They didn't increase them. Now, this comes back to your point on terms of, like, what exactly are we protesting against? And that's what I'd love. Like, I'd love a...
I don't know the answer to that at the moment.
No, but this is what I'm saying. I'd love a more clear indication. Because to just say, right, ownership out, Egbali, Clear Lake, Blueco, Bowley, everyone out, yeah? It's very broad. And, like, with that Liverpool one that I said about, they were specifically protesting against the
Fenway
rise
Sports
in
Group.
season ticket fees, and it was successful, and that's something that I wish we had a little bit more on our side with this one. So I'm giving you a few examples there, right, of protests where I think that they failed, but maybe a little bit of good has come out of them. For example, I mean, the Man United one just failed, but maybe a little bit of good has come out of them in terms of Arsenal. It seems like things started being run a little bit better. The Liverpool one was successful. The season ticket prices didn't go up a little bit better. But then I can give you examples of ones that, like, didn't work. Everton fans, right? They were protesting against, is it Fashiri? Mashiri, right?
Farhad Mashiri.
Farhad Mashiri, that's it, sorry. Protesting against him for years, and it just started to look to me from the outside, and Everton fans, if they're watching, will be able to tell me if I'm wrong. It just started to look to me like once they did that, he went, well, fuck you then, I'm not bothered about you.
Yeah.
And that's awful, by the way, yeah? That's awful. But you've got to live in the real world. And you do need
There's egos
you do need to kind of realise, like, that can happen.
Yeah.
Like, that can happen.
Yeah, totally.
And if you don't believe me, right, and I am saying from the outside looking in, you don't believe me, go and have a look at the spending. 2016, I believe it was, when he took over, right? Mashiri, right? The spending was like, they were bringing in the likes of Richarlison for quite big money. They were bringing in quite a lot of players, actually, for quite big money. Who's tearing it up for Fulham at the minute? Iwobi, he came in for 35 mil, which was quite big money for Everton at the time. Gylfi Sigurdsson, I think they signed for about 45 million. That was big money.
Well, did it?
Yeah, I didn't go too well. Check his hard drive. But no. But, like, obviously, like, he was spending big, and not only that, ambition-wise, Roberto Martinez, Coman, Carlo Ancelotti, as much as the Everton fans would have hated it, Rafa Benitez, yeah, all managers bought in. When the protests started happening and whatnot, and things weren't going well, you then look at the spending. All of a sudden, they're bringing no one in. Beto, who's ever heard of Beto? Like, Beto? They brought
Scoring
him in.
goals, isn't it?
Yeah, but who had ever heard of him?
Exactly.
Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from the likes of Champions League winners as managers, and highly decorated managers, to a man I love dearly
Dyche.
in Frank Lampard and Sean Dyche.
Oh.
Yeah? But come
You've
on.
always questioned managerial expertise of Frank Lampard. You have.
Come on, we know there's a big difference between having Carlo Ancelotti in the dugout and even as much as it would have gone against what they wanted, much like it did when he was appointed our manager, Rafa Benitez in the dugout, to Frank Lampard, Sean Dyche. It shows a clear, in my opinion, change in direction of how much that ownership
downing of
care.
attitudes.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you need to tread lightly, but I'm aware that it can work in a really negative way, some way. So I'm in favour of the protests. Hope they go well. I hope many people turn up to them. And I hope that it really, really fucking inspires the board of directors and the ownership to change the way they're doing things, because I really don't agree with the way that things are being done at this moment in time. In future, who knows? Me and you will probably be at some of these protests if things don't change.
I hope not.
But I hope not, because I hope things change.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think the board need to learn from this thing. And I think my general point is, the board know that it's shit at the moment. Like, the process will happen, and I think it will be a brilliant manifestation of the way that fans feel. And ultimately, in an era in which fans have less and less say, things like this are an incredible democratic right? They allow fans to communicate very clearly how they feel. And so that's why I think you and I made it very clear we don't begrudge the protests happening. I think they're a brilliant thing to go on.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is as much as we doubt the intelligence of these men that are in charge right now and the decisions that they're making, they aren't idiots. And I think they will want the asset, because ultimately these guys are venture capitalists. What they want to do with Chelsea ultimately is raise the value of it, and they only can do the raising the value of it, let's be honest, because we don't have a stadium, really by success on the field. And so while Igbali made the comments that he made about, being happy with, mediocre finishes and, imparting the model of Brighton. And also there's been several comments, not just from Maresca, but on previous managers, that my job wasn't determined by finishing in the Champions League place, which gets our back up as fans, because that's where we expect us to be. The board are so reliant on getting Champions League football that it's their entire business model, because they can't do anything else. So the fact that some fans believe that we aren't achieving and striving towards that goal, I think, is misplaced.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like I said, the process will really push them to realise the fan sentiment, because they love PR and they love fan sentiment. They obviously care very much about that. They've got experts of PR on the board. They do all of these briefings extensively to get fans on their side. And so they obviously care about it. And so I hope that this era of malevolence, unhappiness, really sort of pushes them. And ultimately, I think the people that need to be pushed the most, more than Igbali and Bowley, who quite frankly are pulling out the checkbook at moments when they need to, bearing in mind that January is a shit show and really anything could happen. Really, for me, if I was directing, and you're talking about who I'm going to be directing the malice of the process to, I would personally be pushing the sporting directors.
Yeah.
Because I think in an era and a time in which the board are not footballing people, which is now very clear to see in the era of Bowley as a sporting director and Igbali running the show, right? Mm-hmm. I think these guys that are footballing people really need to get better. And I think as much as we praise some of the signings earlier on in the season, I personally think that they've left that squad so threadbare in an era in which they didn't need to leave it threadbare, when you've got players like Santos tearing it up in France, or Petrovic looking really good, and they've obviously made a mistake there, signing players like Disasi. I mean, we could go on and on and on, right? I think they need to look at themselves. And this is what I mean about individual people making mistakes, because even a Channel fan favourite, in the sporting director that brings in Cole Palmer and Romeo Lavia and all of these other players, has had ricks. I think, the Sancho signing might end up being one of his errors, bearing in mind this Man City connection. And so what my general point is these boys need to stop fishing in the oceans that they've fished in so far. They need to stop looking at the City Academy, Monaco, whatever, right? Yeah. Brighton. Yeah. They need to start thinking more widely and using their expertise in a different way, using the data. And so for me, if I was at that protest, I would be directing it towards the sporting directors and making sure they know what they're doing. Because ultimately, they haven't had a performance review. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking at people now that should be having performance reviews, they're the ones that
It's
should
them.
be them.
It's them.
Yeah,
100%.
so yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself, mate. Thank you very much. Always a little bit of a difficult time on this channel when we have to cover stuff like this, which we never shy away from. But I think the main thing which come off the back of the stream the other day when I was talking about it was like, I do try and look at things positive. I am an optimist, and I think that people might have felt like, hold on, we're all angry. Why are you kind of half being chilled out?
But you are
about
angry.
it?
You are, and this is the key thing to say, and I'll say it on your behalf because I really believe this, is that we share in that anger. But what I don't think we do is, I'm not ripping up and setting fire to everything.
Yeah.
At the same time, the protest is 100% worth it. The people that are going are expressing their own right, and they have the right to do so. I'm not on the other side. Neither are you. And so we should stop thinking of these things as tribal. This isn't like a yes or no thing. This isn't a poll on Twitter where you just go, do you want the board to stay, yes or no? There's more nuance to this. And also, much like some of those failed attempts in the past, I come from it from a perspective of I want to question the board and hold them to account and say when they made mistakes. But in the same vein, when they have successes, I want to say that they've had successes, right? And absolutely the mistakes have outweighed the successes. But you've got to hope that they learn from these mistakes and they take it forward. Because quite frankly, and as much as the protest will go on, and as much as fan sentiment will turn against the board, the blind truth is that Roman is never coming back. As much as we would want him to come back, and arguably could buy the club one day, still sanctioned by the UK government, by the way, so that
he's
still a pipe,
by the UK
still,
government,
still a pipe dream, and also there's still all of that money that needs to go where it needs to go, right? But the fact is this is a business, and you're never going to force someone to sell the business.
No,
like it just will not happen. So what you can do in this protest is hold them to account.
Yeah.
You can't tell them to sell the club.
No.
Because they're not going to do it.
But you can hopefully influence the way that they operate in a way more favourable way for us and to achieve success on the pitch, which is exactly what we want. People, we will review the protest. We'll obviously review the match like we always do. And we will speak about these things on the channel. But I wanted to make this video today. Do you know what? I'll be completely honest with them. I made a video on it already. I sent it to you and I thought, you know what? I want to sit down with Josh in the studio and really chew this over.
It's a hard thing. And look, the thing is what I think fans do often all the time is paint pictures on certain sides. Ultimately, even with the comments that you've got and that sort of thing, we're all on the same side. We all want Chelsea to be successful.
Yeah.
Like that's the key thing. And so the worst thing that can happen out of these protests is that we splinter off into all of our different things and say, I'm a Bowley fan, I'm an Egg Barley fan, I want this, I want Roman back.
I don't give a fuck, mate. I'm a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, this is the key thing.
Grew up going to Stamford Bridge as you did. You've been a season ticket holder for 25 years.
If
we
Chelsea
grew up going to Stamford Bridge with our dads. Like when we walk outside the Fulham Broadway train station, regardless of whose name is on the ownership, that's our club.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you're a pitch owner.
We're all together. I'm a pitch owner. You know what I mean? We're all together in this. So there's
no sides. Like we're not. This is not Arsenal Fan TV. Like we're all pulling for the same thing.
Definitely not Arsenal Fan TV. Right, people. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll see you all in the next one.